you need to watch Blood and Bone. This low-budget action film, directed by Ben Ramsey, follows the story of an ex-convict who enters the underground street fighting scene and eventually finds himself swept up in the political schemes and aspirations of those around him. Though it's renowned for its incredible hand-to-hand fight scenes, elevated by the talented Michael Jai White, the film isn't really about fighting. Instead, Blood and Bone's fights feel more like a means to an end, a backdrop in a larger, more interesting story. The characters take center stage, revealing more depth and complexity than a 90-minute movie should be able to create. Each of them brings something unique and interesting to the story, their motivations and histories working together to build a tightly knit web of relationships that only becomes more compelling as it unravels. However, one character in particular leads the way, offering so much nuance and energy that you just can't wait to learn more about him, to see what he does next. That character is James, played by the ever underappreciated Eamonn Walker. Today, I'm explaining why James from Blood and Bone should be applauded, recognized for taking an otherwise okay film and elevating it through one of the most interesting villains in action movie history. Let's get started.
Well, I guess roundabout now you be getting the picture about how the fuck we roll.
James grew up in the streets and eventually became wrapped up in a competitive, hyper-capitalist world with Franklin McVeigh, a powerful man who used to sell guns to poor kids across America, one of whom included James himself. The film, though, characterizes McVeigh as a racist, someone who views black people as nothing more than objects for his and his colleagues' entertainment. So, I'm guessing he feels the same way about me. Right, Franklin?
You are African American, and myself and my friends don't care for the company of African Americans. Quite frankly, we're entertained by you. We're thrilled by your high-flying acrobatics on the basketball court, that wonderful sense of rhythm you have. But apart from that, we have no use for you.
Freedom of speech was a mistake, apparently. As a result of growing up around such a man, being a pawn in his schemes, James has instilled into himself a sense of pride and personal responsibility, a commitment to contradict Franklin's racist views. He wants to prove that he's more than a stereotype, distancing himself from the perception of other black people.
I am not like the rest of those thugs you see out there smoking blunts and playing video games.
He tries so hard to separate himself from the average Negro, wearing expensive suits, not drinking or using profanity.
Remember, profanity is a brutal vice. He that uses it is no gentleman.
He doesn't know the latest rap song, but he does know Wang Chung, something a high-class white guy like Daryl wouldn't expect a black man like James to know.
There's the music on that thing.
It's a new joint, man. What's his name? You know, cat that does the song Homegirl.
What's wrong? You don't think the brothers are down with Wang Chung? Take your baby to the
See, he knows it.
He also likes to show how he contradicts the stereotypes.
Sing with me. You don't know it, right? We were so in phase.
Here, he's showing how he's different from the man next to him, his foil, from the animalistic Hammerman, a character presented as the exact opposite of James with his intimidating stature and aggression, someone whom the film does everything just short of literally calling King Kong.
Coming straight from Skull Island. Y'all might know him from his numerous appearances atop the Empire State Building, swatting down airplanes and shit. The primate from another climate.
James, though, is cultured, civilized. He isn't a fighter, he manages them. He partakes in high art instead of lowly rap. He wears expensive suits. He doesn't drink or curse. He can even quote Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan once said,
He's better than average, far above the rest, and this separation has led to a sense of superiority as well. Still though, all of these restrictions he places on himself are superficial, a way of simply feeling above those around him to make them feel lowly and separate from him. But that's not enough. Ultimately, he wants something real, something more than a feeling. He wants to move up to Franklin's position by any means necessary, to have power far beyond what he has now. However, in striving towards Franklin, he's also adopted this selfish perspective where he views others as objects, tools for his own advancement that he'll use in any way he sees fit, acting as though everything inherently belongs to him.
See all that? All of that is mine. Every block, every sidewalk, every alley. It's all so dark and unsophisticated. It is not where I want to be anymore.
When he asks Bone to fight Price, he just assumes that Bone will do as he says, like he owns him and his time. The idea that Bone would refuse him seems like a foreign concept to James. Luckily for us though, he's pretty open about it.
I don't like people that say no to me.
Most notably, however, he treats Angela like a possession, forcing her to please Bone for him, controlling her every word and action, even saying that her husband didn't deserve her.
He was a stupid ass boy. He didn't deserve Angela.
He's developed this possessive and entitled perspective, forcing people to cast aside their own desires to further his goals. Additionally, he likes to remind people of his power, to show the influence and control he has over them, even those who clearly already know, such as Angela.
Do you know what I can do to you? Now you know what I'm capable of, right? And you know that I'll do it too.
It's like he has to remind himself that even though others have power over him, people like Franklin McVeigh, that he has power over others as well. He also does this to his subordinates, restraining his dogs from attacking them, showing that their lives hang in his hands. I think James himself sums this up perfectly.
It's like everything else, you just gotta show them who the master is.
James is the master, and he wants everyone to know it. Ultimately, however, though he tries to maintain this collected, well-put-together image of himself, James is really just a possessive, spoiled brat who sees everything as his and can't stand it when he doesn't get his way, breaking from the careful image he's crafted and throwing temper tantrums when it happens. He's quick to anger, killing Monique out of frustration in broad daylight despite her being incapable of defending herself. He lashes out at Bone when he refuses to fight.
Oh yes, motherfucker. You are in that fight. Somebody's gonna be dead.
When he kills Daryl, he further reveals his petulance. Despite saying that killing him isn't personal,
Don't take this personal.
he kicks him in the face over and over, and then he, spits on him. Clearly, this is personal. I think he imagines Daryl as Franklin in this scene, two blonde, high-class white guys, and takes out his pent-up aggression towards Franklin on Daryl. Look at this angle, how low to the ground we are compared to James. He's towering over us, symbolizing the sense of superiority he feels in this moment, the same sense he wants to feel over Franklin.
I want to do to Franklin McVeigh what you and Pinball did to me.
And oh man, he cannot stand Franklin.
Fuck you too.
Someone as entitled and selfish as James simply cannot stomach taking orders from other people. You can see how much it crushes him to know that he has to do as Franklin says to maintain his own position. James is one of the most compelling action movie villains I've ever seen. He's a product of a difficult upbringing mixed with an unhealthy perspective on how to move beyond it. He's equated the common man, a reflection of his past, with inferiority. As a result, he's become cold and unfeeling, concerned almost entirely with his own advancement, and sees others as his property, as tools to use at his discretion. When confronted with resistance, though, when people don't simply bend to his perceived sense of superiority and control over them, he breaks down, revealing the childish personality underneath. James is a violent, entitled brat with an interest in Genghis Khan, and I just can't help but love to hate him. Thanks for watching.